Nico Lawson. Thank you all for coming and not only supporting Nico, but being open to engaging with challenging subjects. Your support means so much to Nico, the cast, and all of their crew. Special thanks to Urban Art Space for allowing us to use their space to show our work in such an intimate setting. This performance and the installation are interactive. We invite you all to leave a lifeline in the yard and leave a message on the wall, both here and in the gallery. Throughout the gallery, you'll find booklets and QR codes that lead you to optional meditations that can be done in the space. After the performance is finished, please feel free to go back to play in the reflection pool or rest behind the field if you haven't already. We do ask that there is no flash photography, as it is very distracting to the dancers and other audience members. Please be mindful that this performance does travel throughout the gallery. You may get into close proximity with the dancers, and we ask that you refrain from touching them. When the performance begins to move, please follow myself, the dancers, and any docents that you may see in the space. There are chairs provided for you to sit in, but please, I ask that if you see someone in need of a chair, please stand and allow them to have the seat. Please also keep an eye out for the camera person and make sure you aren't blocking the recording that's happening. Yes, Josh right here. Trigger warning. Throughout Grieving Landscapes, there will be one short screen at the beginning of the performance. As previously mentioned, you may be fortunate to have a dancer close to you during the performance. Please stay present and mindful for the safety of you and the dancer. There will be a short question and answer after the performance is over. I invite you to enjoy the show.
When did you realize that you could think about your life in the future tense?
When did you realize that you should start making plans?
When did you realize that you would live to be 30?
When did you realize that you would grow to be an elder?
So strange to feel part of yourself, to realize I can't explain the belief that I can't describe the peace that I feel. So I told it reminds me of this father. I still have this curiosity. I know it's hurt. I don't know the strange sensations. It's so strange. I can't explain what I can't describe the peace that I feel. So but the rain came just as well as it reminds me that this body is set in the same water. Every topic should plan it. That's all. Washing these layers. The strange sensation to feel part of yourself that you're not a best to feel part of yourself, you know, it breaks me, as it always does. I still have mysterious in my veins. I know it's hard to stop. The strange sensation of letting yourself die. It's so strange to feel part of yourself to realize I can't explain the belief that I feel I can't describe the peace that I feel so I took my pathway It reminds me of
When did you realize that you could think about your life in the future tense?
When did you realize that you should start making plans?
When did you realize that you would live to be 30?
When did you realize that you would grow to become an elder?
When I decided that I didn't want to die, I started to fight for my life. I am going to live.
I want to tell myself that though it seems impossible, I will get through it.
her best parts about me.
I will be there to hold you, to guide you.
The truest form of myself stay hidden.
I just want to be me. I just want to live the life that I want. I refuse to hide myself.
I will love you always. I will love you no matter what.
I just want to be me. I just want to live the life that I want to live.
I started to fight for my life. I am going to live.
familiar with this process, this space. Still feels like home. But yeah, let's pass the mic down the line so that way everybody can get a little introduction. Obviously we don't have Nico, but still.
Hi everyone, I'm Nico. My pronouns are they, them. I am a third-year MFA candidate at Ohio State, and this is my graduation project, Grieving Landscapes.
Hello, my name is Eris Cohen. I am the inaugural community artist in residence here at Urban Art Space, visual artist, educator, muralist, and father of son, all of those things. And happy to be here. My exhibition for fruition is in the upper gallery, and thanks for having me.
What's up, everybody? Dr. Tom Bear. I'm the manager of Community Learning and Experiencing. I graduated from OSU next to the dance department in Arts, Administration, Education, and Policy. And I'm just here to help moderate.
Hi, my name is Sierra. I am a fourth-year dance major at OSU, graduating this semester.
Hi, I'm Brittany. I'm a sixth year at OSU, graduating this semester, dance major.
Hi, I'm Mercedes, fourth year dance major at OSU.
Thanks. Okay, so for my first question, so John and I are going to kind of bounce off of each other with questions. So Nico, can you speak to how this piece has changed since its inception? You've had several different versions, including some solos, including the first Grieving Landscapes back in May, which I actually got to collaborate with you on. Yeah, can you just speak to how this has changed for you?
And I also want to shout out that in the back here, Lucy, Dylan, Alicia, Jen, Issa Bowser, they were also collaborators on the initial iteration of Grieving Landscapes. So I want to make sure everybody shout them out tonight since they're here as well. And Dorian had to run to another gig, so I also want to take a moment to honor him before jumping into the question. Dorian's known me since I was 16 years old. He was my teacher when I was a student at Governor's School in North Carolina, and so this project is our transition from student and teacher to collaborators. So this work would not have been possible without him, and I want to honor his part of my journey to this place. The show has gotten considerably less messy. The first iteration involved the kiddie pool with the flower petals in it was originally filled with 600 pounds of sand. And so it's gotten considerably less messy. But in all seriousness, it did start out as solo work. And this project became ensemble work because I got to know these beautiful humans down here, Sierra, Brittany, and Mercedes. I've gotten to know them as friends and artists ever since. Hello. I've gotten to know them as friends and artists since I arrived at OSU, and over the course of my time here, got to know each of them. We've had different conversations about our journeys and where our journeys intersect and diverge. And when I felt like I had a process that I felt like I could reasonably keep people safe in, I approached each of them and said, hey, I have an idea for a project. It could be a roller coaster. Are you willing to go on this ride with me? And it became an ensemble work because they all said yes. And I'm incredibly thankful for it. And I'm very thankful to all of my previous collaborators for helping this project get to this point and helping it come back for future iterations.
So the question was, how understanding that both of these works deal with grief, right? And being immersed in that as part of the motivation, part of the imperative that drives this work. My question is, how did the work change you?
All right. The work changed me because of the spirit of collaboration. There are a lot of ways that I've changed my work over the course of the 4 years I've been practicing professionally. And one of those was trying to transition out of thinking I had to do everything on my own. And this residency, along with this show specifically, changed the way I look at that, my paradigm. And so understanding that, working together can be tough, and then things that you may plan have to change in the last minute, and having to adjust to that, being able to adjust to the pivot is the main way that this show, your show, mine, the residency has changed who I am.
I think my hope every time I approach making work is to come out on the other side a different person than when I started. I think that's one of the things I love about being an artist is the propensity for people to change through creative practice. I think that part of how this work has changed me is, again, this learning that you don't have to do everything alone. There have been numerous points at this work where it almost became too heavy. And I've been fortunate to get to a place in my life where I had friends and partners and collaborators that could tell me, Nico, just drop it. It's not worth it, just drop it. Or could say, I think if you just push at this thing or you pick at this thread a little longer, just give it a little time and it's gonna come through. But learning that it's okay to fail, and actually very often it's better to fail because the pushing through is often where you do the most harm. That freedom in collapsing and knowing that I have people that are willing to catch me when I do has been life altering for me.
Okay, next question for Nico and Eris. So I guess, who were you looking to in the design of your work? Who informed some of the decisions that you made? Who inspired you? Whether it was artists, scholars, poets, painters, dancers, whoever.
So I'm going to say that I am not the first artist by a long shot to make work about grief. In my opinion, some of the most beautiful work that has ever been made has been made out of grief. The essay that I read that sparked Grieving Landscapes, its current iteration, is an essay by poet Malkia Devich-Cyril called Does Grief Belong in Social Justice Works? It was featured in Adrienne Maree Brown's book, Transformative Change. And in the essay, she speaks to her experiences of complicated grief in the loss of both her mother and her partner to cancer. And the ways that she had to let herself grieve because she was a community activist at the time, and in not allowing herself to grieve, it was consuming her. And the conversation that when you live under oppressive systems, that we all lose our humanity living under oppressive systems, both in the ways that those systems rob us of our humanity and in the ways that we collaborate with those systems to rob other people of our humanity. And we have to grieve all of that in order to continue to move forward into a new world. And reading that essay sparked a curiosity that was already emerging as my research was turning to trauma and the role of grief in healing from trauma. And so I absolutely point to her as an inspirational spark. And I also need to name bell hooks, Audre Lorde, Neil and John Greenberg, the activists of ACT UP, Black Lives Matter, specifically looking to Patrice Kahn-Cullors, who's a performance artist, and much of her work in the protests during Black Lives Matter in 2020 and 2021. All of those are inspirations to me.
I was inspired by my own dealings with grief. I personally lost my uncle, who was the first patron of my art when I was about 12 years old. He brought a piece that I did in pastel for like $120. And I felt like I was really doing something back then. And his father, my grandfather, is my biggest inspiration as an artist, but I lost him in 2006. And one thing that I'm grieving for him is the fact that he was jaded. He wanted to be an artist, but in the 40s, him having the last name Cohen didn't really make sense to a lot of people. So when he won an art contest and people showed up at his door to greet him and thank him and congratulate him, they turned away because he was a black man. And I've heard this story so many different times, and used to tell me as a kid. And when I graduated from high school and decided on my major at The Ohio State University, I went for architecture instead of art because I didn't think that, I was told by my counselor that I couldn't make a living as an artist. And I wish that I could talk to her right now. But you know, I'm grieving that for him. And so other inspirations would be Dr. Tremont Banner next to me, my frat brother who, you know, really challenged me throughout my residency to really look within myself and to research, and also in collaboration with Nico, the way that you plan, the way that you speak about what it is you wanted to do. And the fact that I was dealing with losing my uncle and my aunt a year apart right at that time, and during this process of my residency, I was deeply inspired to talk about grief. So the two pieces that I have down here, both of which have very deep meaning, but my aunt really loved wind chimes. And she loved trees, and so I wanted to make a tribute piece to them. And although these pieces aren't large, and I wasn't able to put as many pieces down here that I wanted, the ones that are here have a super deep meaning. And the other is a commission piece for one of my fraternity brother's daughters. But the fact that this is an MFA dance, you know, project, and the fervor that that young lady shows when she dances, and just being able to see the rehearsals and the amount of thought and just energy that Nico put into this project, I was just moved to put that in this show as well.
So to piggyback off what both of you just said, I thought the titles of both exhibitions and performances are very important. Permanent fruition and Grieving Landscapes. And to that point, I think art and art making is a embodied experience, both for those who are viewing it and witnessing it, and particularly for those who are making, creating, and performing that art. Similarly, grief is a very embodied and heavy experience for those who are processing it. So I can only imagine or assume that doing both simultaneously is a lot. And you know, the artists you mentioned, some of the activists, and even yourselves, I think it takes a level of permission and trust to do them. Permission to allow yourself to really feel and to sit with those feelings. And trust that you will be able to channel it and come out on the other side. So that's not a fair question, but if that strikes something for you, or if that was part of the process, or how will you just navigate with that? I think so.
So from the get-go of inviting Brittany, Sierra, and Mercedes into the process, and I'm going to even open this up to y'all and Dorian as well if y'all want to share anything, no obligations. From the get-go, I let them know I'm fairly comfortable sharing my story. You do not need to be as comfortable sharing yours as I am with mine. So if anything that y'all want to keep secret, stay secret. For full transparency, for my own part of this work, I'm a trans non-binary person. And because of the way I grew up, I did not realize that I was queer or trans until I was in my late 20s. I also didn't realize that I had autism until I was in my late 20s, or that I had Ehlers-Danlos syndrome until I was almost 30. So grew up primarily in survival mode, and finally hit a point in my life where I realized that if I didn't allow myself to grieve the iterations of myself that had to die for me to survive to get to this point, that I wasn't going to be able to make it forward. And that is where a lot of this research was born out, was trying to figure out a way to, I finally named her Wisteria. So if anybody came to the show in May, I named her Wisteria, this experience of this person that I became in order to live, and the recognition that if I want to continue living, that she has to go. But that's very complicated. And that's how a lot of this started, in allowing myself to feel the loss of her in my body, of her leaving me, because she was me, but she's not me anymore. And also feel the growing pains of becoming the person that I am now, and the survivor's guilt that I also feel because the number of people in my life that didn't survive to make it to the point that I'm at right now. So full transparency, that's part of this work, was allowing myself to have a container to let that part of my life be alive.
All right. Nico and Eris and collaborators. What can you tell me about your role in this process? What did you learn, and what do you want to take with you, whatever you're comfortable sharing?
So my role, I was a musician before, so I did the sound score in the soundscape. And so I started by saying, like, shout out to Nico and dancers for trusting me that I don't have sound. Because relatively late in the process, I mean, like, beginning of this week, like late last week, was when I came in and was like, oh, here's the music. And at most we did like a little sound before holiday break. It just like went away. And then literally so came in one day, it's like, all right, here's the score. And they trust me, no one made up a weird face. They seem to like it, I don't know. They're very kind people. And so that's my role, was that because I came in, even though like I didn't late into this specific process, but I sort of watched the various iterations. And when Nico confirmed that they were coming to Ohio State, I don't know if you already did this spiel, I've known Nico since age 16, out their teacher in North Carolina, in the summer program. My unofficial hope is always to collaborate with all my students from never on. Pretty much never happened. So Nico was like, hey, would you be interested in, yes. Yeah. So yes, say less, it's going to happen, yes. You can stop asking me, the answer is always going to be yes. And so because I came on, I wasn't necessarily in this particular, like the ins and outs of the conversations, but in our conversations, Nico and I, so like translating, like, a story that I'm more specific of, but I know the generalities of grief, so it helps with words, and then try to like translate that like sonically, without sort of knowing because you don't need to know the details, grief. And so that's my version of kind of like being like an overall sort of intimate translation of that. Whether I hit it or not, I don't know, but that was sort of overall like goal for it. So yeah. I made that thing.
Yes, you did.
Now I have to go make another thing.
Boundaries, y'all. Learning how to set and sustain boundaries for myself and boundaries for others.
and just learning how to support people in the safe space, in the very vulnerable space. Yeah, asking what each other needs and always being there for each other.
Biggest takeaway, I think the biggest one is boundaries. Boundaries and just learning to be patient with yourself every day. Every day is not linear, every day is a learning process. You have good days, you have bad days, so just, and also standing your ground and how to react to your body and listen to it and do what it needs, because we often ignore that, and we can't do that. It's not healthy. So just taking all that into consideration and taking the process and evolving forward.
You said something about patience, and that's also my takeaway. Just knowing that grief isn't linear, so you have to be patient with yourself and others as you're all grieving things. It was really nice to practice that with people that I feel comfortable with and that are in my life. So.
Okay, so on the topic of collaboration, right, as we see, collaboration comes in many forms, artists to artists, artists to collaborators, but I think also oftentimes overlooked is artists and collaborators to audience, right, because you are collaborators in this process. So with that being said, this is next to everybody. So with that being, as part of that collaborative relationship, right, here, what do you hope, or what did you hope, or what do you still hope to give to the audience? And in turn, what do you hope to get from the audience in the process?
I'll try to use an economy of words. So in my opening, we did impromptu roller skating performance. And what I wanted for the audience to take from that is to understand the importance of having a release. When you're dealing with grief, one of the things that I did was present a portrait to a young lady who I know from the skate ring, who lost her mother a couple of years ago. And from the relationship, the way she presented it, I could tell she was really close with her mother. So I felt like a good thing to do before the opening would be to present that portrait to her mother and to show the audience that wasn't participating, even though anybody could have brought her skates and skated, that this is something we love to do, and we do it because we celebrate, we grieve, like this is our way to have a release. So my paint breaks on Thursday and Sunday are my wife and I going skating, and that's how we met. And we have a lot of fun doing that. So I was hoping that the audience would take away understanding what it is to have a release, and I hope that that still, translates, especially with this exhibition and the performance aspect. I think performance art is a great way to kind of open up and show the audience who you really are in real time.
I think in terms of what the audience can give back, I've received everything I could hope for. Ritual means witness, and you all were here, and you bore witness to my and the performers, my collaborators' experience tonight, and held us tenderly in that witness, and we are greatly appreciative. I'm also looking, I haven't had a chance to see behind the hallway, but I'm looking across from me at the other install, and I'm looking at a tracing of all the people that have been through this space. And making time to honor themselves, which is everything that I could have asked for as a multimodal artist. So I thank you for your presence here tonight and your willingness to interact with our work. In terms of what I hope to leave with you, it's the admonition that the world is grieving right now. And I beg you not to look away. I beg you not to look away from Palestine. I beg you not to look away from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. I beg you not to look away from the queer and trans people that are watching their rights be legislated away. I beg you not to look away. Because people lose their lives when people stop being willing to bear witness. So that is what I admonish you tonight.
Okay, so I guess we questioned enough from our end, right? I do want to open it up for a few minutes or a few questions or comments, or you give the flowers, right? Or it's anything that you may want to add in the audience. And I can bring my help. So if you could give your name and then comment questions.
Hi, my name is Lynn. Oh my God, what's my question? Jesus Christ. Did each dancer represent a different character or something? That was kind of the vibe I was getting, but wanted to know if that was intentional or not.
I won't say that there was a character development behind it. It was more of a process of what we individually went through and then putting that into an embodiment process. We each had to write eulogies, talking to our past selves, so I think the intention behind what everyone was trying to get at was just being a mirror or an ancestor for themselves more than be a character. It just kind of happened that way. So.
All interpretations are valid.
Okay, I saw another hand go up.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Gloria. I'm actually an employee at Ohio State, and we're just so big. I had never known that you guys existed or this space existed, and it's wonderful to be here. I have zero creative experience, so just being a part of this is so moving. If it's not too personal, can you just share like what's next? You all are graduating, or what would be your envision? I'm just so curious.
It's early to tell what I'm thinking of. I am an educator at heart, so what I am looking very seriously into is the possibility of going back into K-12 education or community education, obviously continuing to produce work. I'm also considering a PhD. We'll see if my friends who've also completed PhDs talk me out of it. We'll see.
I hope they don't talk about it. Yeah, so my career is really a lot different. I didn't mention, but I'm finishing my undergrad degree this year, probably academic. But I practice. I'm an artist every day. I do this full time, so I'm probably going to go home. Okay. I have a mural that I'm completing in Cleveland, the Greater Cleveland Food Bank. Go up there once a week to do that until it's done. I teach acrylic paint at Franklinton High School, and I plan on to continue to do that. A lot of community work, murals. There's so much. I do this, so I'm always going to continue to do this once school is over. I'm going to go to grad school eventually. I would like to be a professor. I'd like to throw a doctor in front of my name as well. So the learning never stops. Working with Urban Art Space never stops. I feel like I'm part of this family as well. So they'll have to say, hey, there's no home.
I'm going to talk Nico and Harrison into the PhD.
I have no idea also finishing undergrad, a returning student, maybe thinking about it in that day. You don't know yet, but anything that I've had many careers before I came back to school, so anything dealing with dance, I'd be willing to do to a degree. But whoever wants to give me a job out here to do an interview if you're still spunky, so. Yeah, it's a little early to know. Generally just like dancing until my body can't anymore. I have an undergrad degree in pre-physical therapy, so like grad school is always going to be there for that, and just go on wherever the good Lord calls me. So
I have no plans. I do get into company and just dance until I can't anymore, so at 17. If that doesn't work out, I'll be
Any other questions?
I was just curious if you could talk a little bit about the motif of water and reflection of light on water that we saw throughout the work.
To speak to myself, I'm going to toss this to my dancers because I know that you also are in your obligations as a dancer, never. I know that the water meant different things to each of us at different points. For myself personally, as a trans person, I got very interested because I come from a deeply conservative religious background. I became interested in the subversion of religious symbols, and one of those being baptism and the motif of baptizing myself in my own name and the name I chose to give myself.
Nico said, let there be water, so I just was like, let's start swimming.
I drink water.
I've been baptized. I still practice my faith, my Christianity, so for me it means baptism.
Yeah, so do one more.
I'm Kai. So if and when your artistry has ever been called into question, how would you kind of like push through that, whether it was like internal or
Let's talk about
Go for it, Sarah. You just keep going. You don't pay attention to what other people are saying because no one shares the same vision or story that you do, and you don't let no one tell you that you can't do anything because no one is in your shoes. So I think the best thing to do is take it with a grain of salt and keep it pushing and always stick to you truly, to who you are, and just keep doing it. Not everyone's gonna deny your vision, and honestly, you shouldn't deny your own.
To repeat the question, I think I heard someone ask for the question to be repeated. In the words of the great Kai. If and when your artistry has come into question, internally and or externally, how did you deal with that? That's always going to be an ongoing thing because emotions ebb and flow. And I mentioned earlier how my artistry was called into question when I was told that I couldn't make a living doing it. But pushing through, as we said, and taking it with a grain of salt is kind of the internal and external, but it jaded me. So for a while I was broken by it, and I dealt with that, and then I had all of these circumstances that I caused for myself because at that time when I was told that I couldn't do something, I was vulnerable and I believed it. So it actually took me off of my path. However, art was always there. being creative was always there. Who I am was always there. And when I looked in the mirror, that person was there. So internally, I dealt with it, I went through it, I allowed myself to be broken, I called on people that I don't care. And when I felt like people didn't care, I tried my best to deal with that too. All the way to the point of homelessness, to me not caring about sharing the things that I've been through and leading with that. I'm a father of 11, I've been married 7 years. I dropped out of college and came back. But it's not about how you fall, it's how you get up.
Amen. And as someone who's gotten to know you personally over the course of the last few years, there's no question. You're an artist. Because that's who you are. No question at all.
All right, I'm gonna keep it short. If y'all know me, you know what's up. So artistry and aesthetics, right, are often synonymous and often they're not decoupled, but they're not the same thing, right? Your artistry is your personal experience, your personal narrative, your personal expression. No one can tell you that your experience is valid, your experience is you, your experience isn't correct. Aesthetics, and that happens a lot in academia, right? So we're so used to right and wrong answer, right? And we're going to show you how to do this, to do it right, and even whose gaze or perspective we use, or we point to someone or someone's artistic process to be problematic. So you can have critique, but at the end of the day, you have to understand truly what is art. And art is expression of lived experience, and experiences are complex interactions, both subtle and in depth. So if someone questions your artistry, they're in turn trying to question you. And I think you shouldn't take that for, you shouldn't take that at all, period. I'm just not that type of thing going, but yeah. So if we could give a round of applause for artists, our collaborators.